My view is basically where students are involved. It's self-initiated, inquiry-based, and they take charge of, or they take responsibility of their own learning. Typically, if you want to put it into words, it can be as the student agency is about their voice and choice, and how you can initiate is, I would say it's through different strategies like inquiry-based learning and project-based learning. These are the two strategies, or you can say the two teaching concepts that support student agency a lot. Student agency also allows students to basically reflect on what they are learning, not only take the decisions. It's a directive path for them where they are given the feedback on step-by-step learning process, and they themselves find out that what's the solution and how to go about it, what's more there to learn about. They develop their need to knows and their learned lists, further find out that what would be our investigations, where should we go for our research, and the teacher basically acts as the facilitator, making sure that you do provide them certain guidelines and direct them, channelize their thinking process by student agencies for me.
Learning Support Department strongly believes in the student agency. Voice, choice, and ownership are the pillars of inclusivity in TMS. Students with different abilities are provided a safe environment to voice out their opinions and share ideas to equally contribute in the school community and the classrooms. Right from the beginning, they are provided with a good insight about their strength areas. Choice is given throughout the continuum of the TMS. Students can voice out and choose according to their strengths, for example, their own preferred learning styles, the medium of production, differentiation in the end products of the projects, and subject selections. This allows them to actually take an ownership of their learning. And in the high grades, they are actually able to opt for their subjects, and they are well aware of the strength areas which they are going to pursue in their universities for the life.
I would like to thank my amazing leadership team for actually sharing their views on student agency. What you will see very clearly from the video there is that it is progressive from EY all the way up, and everyone also has a different viewpoint. And that is fine, because at the end of the day, student agency is there to promote students to actually be in charge of their own learning. That is the fundamental behind it. Now, sadly, I'm getting old, and I come from a national curriculum. It was a 5 to 14 in Scotland. And most of you online come from a national curriculum. I know that we have many IB-PAC members on here from Pakistan who studied the British and also the Pakistan national curriculum. We also have members on here from my old education group in China who studied the Chinese national curriculum. These national curriculums are designed in such a way that it's the old-fashioned way of chalk and talk. It's telling students what they need to know. It's passing on knowledge. I asked a group of parents, both in China and in Pakistan, only last week, of what they remembered from their schooling. Now, remember, this is kindergarten all the way up to high school. Now, this was a group, and as consensus, the group came out and actually said the only thing they remembered from school was their times tables. That is not student empowerment. By engaging students in authentic and real life situations and projects, they will get involved in their own projects and they will remember things. An example of this would be the Grade 5 exhibition for the PYP. For this, the students actually create or determine what their issue they want to look into. From that, they actually plan everything from the start. So the central ideas, lines of inquiry, the research, everything, and they put it together. On the final day of exhibition, they present this not only to their parents, not only to the whole school group, but also to other schools around the world. And this year, doing the IB exhibition virtually has, of course, expanded horizons. This will be the same thing with MYP, with a personal project. Now, next week, we will be very privileged at TNS to actually be having our personal projects. This will be live streamed also onto different platforms, so people can actually watch our personal project and see student agency in action. As a theorist, as an educationalist, I can talk about student agency for hours on end. However, I can summarize it also. Our role used to be to stand at the front of the classroom and pass on information. That is so old. Now we are facilitators. Students lead their own learning. As Sarah said at the beginning of this workshop, I also work for the IB. I'm a member of IBM. I have just finished delivering 2 workshops virtually, one being the role of the IB coordinator, and secondly, Building for the Future, which actually talks about student agency. I was a facilitator on there because I would do a lot online, but let the students lead it because it's in their context. I was speaking to a teacher yesterday about the progression of English, and she was concerned that we don't actually follow or read the classics. And I said to her, nobody reads Enid Blyton anymore. Things have changed. You need to keep up with the students. So within my old school, when I was grade 5 teacher a long time ago, I actually read the same books as the students because that empowered the students. That actually made them trust me. Once you actually gain the trust of students, then they will actually really start working for you, but working as a team. Collaboration is one of the key things also behind student agency. Before I continue and talk about student agency and collaboration more in detail, I'm going to pass over this to our DP students. Now, for me, the first person who speaks in the video is Hassan Ahmad, and Hassan is our head boy. Hassan beautifully describes what is student agency in his first sentence. However, as it continues with the other speakers, you will see how student agency, because they have been here, most of them, since nursery. You'll see from their own words how it's changed their way of thinking, but also their outlook for the future as well. So please enjoy this video.
Ahmed, the head boy of TNS. Traditional education systems possess a certain rigidity in their curriculum that doesn't allow students to be engaged with what they're learning in the classroom and forces them to not reflect on what they're learning. This stops them not only from achieving their academic potential, but from gaining the experience and the skills that they need to occupy the leadership positions that they'll occupy in their careers.
I'm Jahan and I'm the head girl of TNS. At TNS, we believe that the solution to this problem is student agency. Student agency is encouraged through all of our activities here at TNS, as our students are encouraged to take initiatives beyond the classroom. So learning through service is an integral part of our curriculum here, as our students are encouraged to take community service initiatives throughout MYP and in DP as well. The CAS, which is part of our IB curriculum, is extremely important as it encourages students to take creative initiatives, activities like sports and community service up to learn outside, and even throughout MYP and early years even, students are encouraged in group activities where they learn collaboration and other IB learner profile attributes as they become more knowledgeable, better thinkers, and all because of this idea of student agency.
TNS EDP1 student body has shown its unique set of critical and interpersonal skills developed through the International Baccalaureate. Through creativity, action, and service, we are on the forefront in representing our community by raising our voices against problems faced in today's modern society. We take responsibility and action to face these problems. We motivate ourselves through our passion, our drive, and our desire to grow as human beings. However, we did not achieve these ourselves, as we work collaboratively with our seniors and juniors. As long as we continue working together as a community, we will continue bringing change for the better. As mentioned, through supporting our seniors, we volunteer in two major student-led NGOs, EcoDosti and ARZU. We support EcoDosti through raising awareness and taking action against problems threatening our natural environment. Similarly, we support ARZU, which tackles various problems and stigmas in our society. I work in both organizations. In EcoDosti, I work as the director of marketing, in which I build campaigns for several projects in the NGO. In RSU, I work as the director of education, in where we support underprivileged children and build awareness on the problems of education in Pakistan. Recently, we started an internship in where we're supporting underprivileged children through teaching them educational skills which they otherwise may not receive in their school.
TNS's students make up a student body like no other. This is through the unique set of creative, critical, and interpersonal skills that we have developed through the International Baccalaureate's collaborative as well as meaningful education program. DP1 students are definitely not the exception, showcasing the cultivation of years of personal development, not only in academics, but through worthwhile creativity, activity, and service projects. For example, at ARZU, which is an NGO that has been started by one of our DP2 students, I am co-heading a suicide prevention awareness and destigmatization campaign with some of my other peers. And by collaborating with a group of passionate volunteers stationed all across Lahore, we are taking ownership of the tools and platform that we have available and we're now very fortunate to have, such as research skills as well as social media. And we are providing support through real-life stories, helplines, and positive affirmations to our larger local community in Pakistan.
Student agency allowed me to work on my plans as a student. I made fitness plans for people and I made study plans for myself. It allowed me to control my learning and better myself and better my learning experience. We believe that student agency is taking initiative both inside and outside the classroom and controlling the work that you get done, as well as making your own independent decisions in order to change your life.
I would like to thank our Student Executive Council for being very, very courageous and actually stating their own viewpoints on student agency. The last two people in the video just broke in because they wanted to be famous. They're actually not part of the Student Council, but that's okay. Now, one thing that I would like to discuss before we show examples is we always talk about this voice, choice, and ownership. And what I want to do is just give some practical examples that I've seen in TNS, but also have seen in other schools, including my old school in China. Now, getting students involved, trusting students, really builds on the student agency. So within many IB schools that I've either visited or have conversed with online through workshops, allowing students to create their own classroom design actually gives the students ownership. Now, we've been trying that in TNS and with our older students with great success. They take pride in their classrooms. They want to be in their classrooms. They want to promote their own learning. In the IB, there is something called an essential agreement. Now, essential agreement is actually just class rules. So it crosses the boundaries. It doesn't matter if you're an IB school, an A-level school, whatever. But actually sitting down as a facilitator with the students to come up with their own classroom agreement, that also empowers the students and the teachers to work together as a team. One of the biggest ones is how assessment is used within student agency. So I was giving a training to the teachers from our Beacon House schools a number of weeks ago, and we were looking at eco-school. Now, in my old school, assessment was always death by PowerPoint and by posters. And teachers only taught by PowerPoint and posters. So I banned them. Because one thing, we are a school for the 21st century. And technology has become integral in our daily lives. Students understand technology better than our ICT teachers do. We talked about learning styles before. Learning styles with the new research no longer exists, okay? So there's a lot of controversy behind that as well. So what we do with assessments is we open it up. So if you want to have a project based on, say, children's rights, and you want to have the students actually present 2 of the clauses of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, you need to give them a choice of how. And it doesn't matter, because if you give them the success criteria at the beginning, and they can present it any way they want, then they can actually use the skills that they have already. So why not allow them, you know, for the more vocal community, I can't say it, people to actually, you know, come up with a debate. No issue with this. Animation, stock animation, fantastic. Dance, music, poetry, the options are endless. And then it goes to the strength of the child. Now, as you'll see in the video previously, Jahan talks about skills. Skills are one of the most important things that students need to learn. So we have communication skills, we have thinking skills, we have research skills, and the list continues. And it gets broken down. Now, of course, the guru for, as we call them, ATLs, approaches to learning, is Lance King. Now, many of the people at Beacon House were very fortunate to have listened to Lance King only a few months back. Skills, if they are put into place from an early age, you will see the child develop very, very quickly. There was research that came out just the other day that through the skills, DP students have a huge advantage over many of the other national curriculum. Now, one thing that I want to show you before I continue, talking about collaboration and assessment, I talked about previously the grade 5 exhibition. Now, within my TNS school, we do projects, and we do projects within the primary school quite often. And that culminates again in an assessment where children can show their knowledge and learning in any way they see fit. And we're working on this to open it up even more. I mentioned also before the personal project within the MYP. So what I would like to do is show you an example of a personal project that happened last year within the school. As I said, next week on the 24th, between 12 and 2, we will be having our personal project this year virtually, which will be, again, live to everybody. So please, watch what students can do through the development once they get to MYP. Please enjoy this video. what you will see from that video is that you see some very confident young teenagers. They're only 14, 15, and already they're standing there in front of their peers, in front of their parents, in front of other schools presenting. Now, again, this is a process where the student has chosen the issue that they want to present on. They have done the research on their own. They are only given a supervisor or a mentor, if you like, that only gives them some feedback. So they are empowered to look after this whole project from start to finish. And what it does, it builds a community of learners, and it builds collaboration amongst their groups, if they are having groups in grade 5, or if you're in them, might be doing it individually. You will see from just watching that video that the skills required to actually produce such excellent work and to be able to be so confident in front of parents is significant. You will have seen from your time at school that actually children were not as confident as they are today. Now, yes, there is more technology out there, but I would actually say it's not technology, it's the way that now we have changed our way of teaching. I remember from school, as I say, also the times tables. I remember singing ABC in nursery school and a child vomiting next to me on the floor. I don't actually remember very much about the middle and high school, apart from learning how to sing, loving history, that's it. Speaking to my former DP students and students from previous years, they remember fondly their primary school. They remember fondly their middle and high school because it wasn't chalk and talk from the teacher. It was giving empowerment to the students. Voice and choice and ownership is a very powerful thing. I'm going to show you one more video now, which is from our primary department. Now, I'm very proud of this child because you'll see how verbal and how vocal they are and passionate about the project that they did last year. What it also does, it reminds you, or it shows you that children, by being taught in a different way, by focusing on the child as number one, rather than the knowledge, they're actually remembering things. And it can't be said, really, with a normal national curriculum. And again, with the use of the skills, with the teacher being a facilitator, it actually really enhances this teaching and learning. I also mentioned trust previously. It is vital for the teacher to actually build up trust with the student for things to work and progress within the classroom and the school as a whole. You might say this is obvious. However, how many teachers actually work on this skill? From a management point of view, it's important for me to install trust in my teachers and my leadership team so we can also work collaboratively to promote agency within the school. One thing that I did when I arrived here, I promoted teacher agency, which means that all teachers have a voice in the school. They all have ownership of what they do within the school. This is not a dictatorship. You will remember in the old days when the principals or the headmasters were feared in the school. It shouldn't be like that. We are a team. I was a teacher once, I still am. We all keep learning. As Sarah rightfully said, lifelong learning creates a future. This is something very, very dear to my heart. Let's watch the primary school student talk about one of the projects that they did.
What is student voice and choice? Student voice and choice is when students get to pick their project and what they want to learn, and they can also solve the questions by that, and it's also it takes them to a new level of learning something new. And I think it also teaches me something new.
Okay, nice and short and to the point. And You know what I always say is, when I ask the children to come up with a big idea based on, say, children's rights or anything, or if you ask them what is student agency, they can actually always answer it better than the teachers. This is why we need to actually trust students. One of the big things that also comes into play is you never answer a student's question. You keep asking them questions. Students know a lot more than we actually think. And by keep questioning them, they will keep thinking and expanding their horizons. And that is a huge benefit by being a facilitator rather than talk and talk. Now, I know that some of you here will be thinking, yes, we agree with student agency, but schools are going to run wild. How are the students going to learn the core knowledge? Now, to be very honest with you, students still need to learn, of course, maths, facts, grammar within English and Urdu, and that's fine because it can be standalone. But the purpose of student agency is also still giving them choice. So, for example, if you're running an English program and you have English every day, why not look into different systems to make it more appropriate, more interesting to the students? So again, as I was saying about children's rights, if you're doing a project on children's rights, your English classes, you might have a class reader based on children's rights. So a good example of that would be a book called Billy Elliot, which is also a famous film from the UK. There is actually a program also that comes from the US, which is called Daily 5, which has now been enhanced to the cafe. With that, you have stations within the room. So students can choose which station they want to go to, which level they want to do, and that also gives them the choice and the ownership. Now, you may say, but they're going to go for the easiest worksheet. At the start, they do, but as they learn the whole process behind the voice, choice, and ownership, they will start to try and prove themselves to the teacher and to their friends, because you've already built up that trust mentality. Also, by making the learning more authentic, more real life. I mean, who cares really of many of the things now that happened 500-600 years ago? Is it relevant? Not really. You can learn now from what's happening in the present. So as we do within the school, we look at local issues first. As they go up the stages, of course, it becomes more global. So if you speak to our DP students at the moment, who are very stressed going through their university entrance tests, etc., today, you can converse with them very, very openly about different topics that are working or happening internationally. Now, I remember when I was teaching in Scotland, actually having a conversation with our middle school and high school students, and they couldn't do that. They hadn't built up the confidence to talk to different parties. And this is a huge thing by allowing them to take control of their own learning. Now, I've left one video to last, and it's a very short video. And the reason it's short is because it comes from our early years, our EY department. It is an extremely impressive video, because listen to the words that the child has used. Now, I was quite upset that we could only have one child, really, but of course it was to be fair to most of the other divisions, because I have examples of so many of the children in TNS that have talked about the passion for the for what they're actually learning within the classroom and the ownership of their own learning. So listen to this. Now, I was totally surprised that this came out of the mouth of a KG student. Thank you.
My name is Omer. Last year we did a project called Tinypreneurs. We learned about how to earn money at 6 years old. We learned about evolution of currencies, doing people's work and being your own boss is different from each other. Me and my business partner Ryan made scented candles in the science lab to sell them at the TNS fair. Doing science experiments and I love to be an entrepreneur.
Now, when I showed this video to Sarah, can you put your camera on for 1 second? You can see that, you know, Sarah has a big smile on her face. Sarah watched it for the first time this morning. And Sarah, can I ask you what you thought of that video when you saw it first?
I'll be honest, I could so totally relate, and it took me back to, you know, the little projects that my own daughter, keeps on doing off and on. My own daughter is about 7 years old, and I could so totally relate. And I, for once, realized how important it is for her to take the lead and for her to imagine what she would like to do and for her to take the lead. It was just so important in that moment when I saw this child speaking about what he loved to do with such confidence that I absolutely realized that this is exactly how it should be.
Thank you, Sarah. And I totally agree with you. I shared this with different family members as well last night, because we only filmed this yesterday. And, you know, to actually listen to a kindergarten child who's, 5 years old, talk about, you know, being his business partner, talking about science experiments. Now, what that does, it shows you that he understands the real life contexts. He understands authentic learning. He understands that everybody has a role within society and within the school. And that was actually the point because this was actually a project that was done this year. And that was actually the point behind it, that students actually do understand that everyone in society has a role. And then they built it from there. So everything to do with the business partner, everything to do with science experiments did not come from us. And that hand up to that. They actually decided to work collaboratively as a group. The teacher helped them with a few aspects, but the great thing about this was the parents also worked. When I talk about community of learners, I mean parents, I mean students, and I mean teachers working together in partnership, equal partnership, because it helps promote learning for all parties. I work in education, Sarah works in education. I learn from these students every day. And it's the students now who are actually imparting so much knowledge to us that we have different knowledge to them. We come from a different time. Now, I'm not saying Sarah's old, because Sarah might kill me, but, you know, we are looking at the students for tomorrow. So when you are looking at voice, choice, and ownership, it is looking at the child at the center. It is saying the child is in charge of their own learning. If you look at TNS, DHA, I'm very proud of what they have achieved here. Even though I was delayed in China for many months and couldn't get into Pakistan due to COVID-19, I was getting all the information from the school on a daily basis and actually seeing what the children were doing within the EY and PEY section with their projects and the MYP and DP sections was highly, highly motivational for me. Because what I could see in the school and what you have seen from the videos is that our students have become just incredible individuals, wonderful communicators, wonderful researchers, wonderful thinkers. And they are in charge of their own destiny and their own learning. You may be aware that TNS DHA has had the strongest MYP results in Asia Pacific for the last 3 years, and with top 1% in the world for our MYP results. And I pride that on the fact that this is not me. This is my coordinators. This is the students. This is the parents who have really taken on board the benefits behind student agency. The benefits of giving a student a voice, giving them choice in different ways, and actually also giving them ownership. Now, I know, as I said before, within our British school system, it was called student empowerment. It's the same thing. But making it a collaborative approach, making it a trust approach, all this research has been done by different bodies. One of the most up-to-date researches for this actually comes from the Harvard X program in America. Now, Harvard X has been partnering with the IB for many years, but of course they do many separate sessions as well. What I would ask for many of you to do is actually look at the trust research from Harvard X, because everything is interconnected, everything that we do. So also our learning is interconnected. So students don't learn subjects independently, really, unless you're doing, say, the times tables. They learn them together. So within the PYP, that's called transdisciplinary. Within the MYP and DP, it's called interdisciplinary. Within the British system, it's called cross-curricular, but it's all the same thing. Okay? Now, if you are studying any topic, you can relate many of these subjects together, and it makes it more authentic, more real life for the students as well. And they will understand this. One of the students came to me the other day, and this had nothing to do with the conference. And they said, Mr. Riley, the pollution is terrible in Lahore. And I agreed with them. So I said, well, what are you going to do about it? Because it's not for me to solve. What am I going to do? Go out with a vacuum cleaner and start and hope for the best? No. This child was actually one of our MYP students. And again, a very, very vocal student. So he's actually written a letter to the Education Minister, Murad Raz, to actually complain about the pollution and how that's going to have an effect on his education due to the closure of schools due to smog in Pakistan. Fantastic. And another example was a student, again, he was MYP 9, who had just taken part in the monologue games and came 6th internationally. Now, his name is Yahya, and he has been bombarding me with emails, which I have no issue. And so I said, right, Yahya, stop emailing me. Come to my office and we'll have a chat. And I said to him, right, Yahya, you have a really interesting history. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Not what your parents want you to do, because parents always want you to be a doctor. They don't want you to be a teacher. So sorry, Mum, I failed in my life. But they, you know, he said, well, I want to be an actor. And I said, well, good on you. What are you going to do? He said, well, I've been an actor in many different films and adverts in Pakistan and also in the UK and America. He goes to camps internationally, fantastic. And he went, but Mr. Riley, or Mr. Iain, it depends on which class it is. I said, they say, well, TNS does nothing. And I said to him, so what are you going to do about it? Again, giving them the ownership, giving them the empowerment, giving them the voice. The next day, he made a video asking the leadership team first to actually create his own drama club. He sourced the teachers from outside to bring in from a drama studio in Lahore to teach drama and actually put on a production. Fantastic. Now, of course, I answered immediately and said, of course, agreed, but you need to do all the preparation for this. So again, this was the next day. This happened very, very quickly. What Yahya did, he made another video. He broadcast it to his fellow students, which I thought was a miracle. He went on the tannoy, the voice speaker in the school, and announced it as well. And he's now managed to set up his own club with quite a number of students on his own. And that was because I didn't say, right, give me a proposal. I gave him the ownership. I gave him the voice to actually do it on his own. It is hugely beneficial, and you will really see the awards, the reward within your school. If you are not already doing student agency, please look into it further. You can contact me at tns@dha.house. I will be happy to share and talk to you about this more. I would like to say Sarah again. Sarah, thank you again for inviting me to speak today. And to my audience, thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. I think with that, I would just like to proceed with a few questions that the audience has for you. I'll promise to keep it brief because we have 5 minutes left. So our first question that I've received is, who owns the curriculum? How do you let students decide what to cover and how to teach it?
Okay, now, as I stated before, you do have certain knowledge that needs to be taught, okay? Now, that knowledge can be taught as a standalone, but you're still giving the students choice. So, but you're meeting your targets at the same time. So, for example, if you're looking at your maths curriculum and you know that within grade 3 or 4, you're doing 3-digit by 3-digit multiplication, right? Yes, you will do that, but you know, you can have students teach each other because some people have mathematical skills, some people don't. And it's the same for English as well. Why do the teachers always have to be the ones who lead? You know, in primary school, the primary school teachers mostly in most countries are generalist teachers. They are not specialists. I'm a primary school teacher, yet my degree is in history and English. So of course, we do not have strengths in all subjects. So by empowering students to work together, then it works. Also, with, let's say, projects that we're talking about, these projects have been designed really in a way where, of course, the learning outcomes are already there from whichever national curriculum you are using. Because if you think about the IB or the Reggio, they are frameworks, all right? It's a way of teaching. I taught people in China how to teach one of the most stringent curriculums in the world, the Chinese national curriculum, in an inquiry stroke student agency approach. It's the way that you teach, it's the way that you deliver, it's the way that you let the students work together. It's got really very little to do with the curriculum. Sarah.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, who should do the heavy lifting? Should students keep experimenting and tackling problems on their own? Or do the teachers and the school leadership step in at any point of need?
Pardon me. What I would say is, as there's always levels of student agency. And when you look at the early years, for example, you will see that it's more controlled agency. You know, so the teacher still plays a role, even though they're still called facilitators. Once you go up to school, students are given more empowerment. They're given more chances to actually voice their opinions. But of course, you know, it's still a school. There's still kids, basically, yeah? And a lot of the things, like the student council, I've got two. I've got the student executive council, which is the middle and upper school, and the student primary council. And they work with us together. So a lot of this, again, is collaborative. At no point, really, do the leaders of the school actually work independently. It's either collaboratively with the students or collaboratively as a team, and it's progressive. There you go.
Thank you. I do have one last question. I would like to ask it very, very quickly because it's close to my heart as well. How do you encourage students with special education needs to take control of their own learning?
All right. And again, Sarah, that is a really good one for me, really close to my heart, because the big thing about being an IB school or a Reggio school is inclusion. And inclusive education is a huge thing. Now, one thing that, you know, educators also have to remember, and this is where the voice, choice and ownership comes in, is differentiation. You know, that we need to make sure that they have the support, they have the differentiation required, and they have the voice to be able to achieve. We have quite a large learning support department, because we changed the name from special educational needs to learning support, because that's a better term for what really fits, you know, student agency and empowerment within the school and inclusive education.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. This has been a very highly engaging and enlightening session, which has opened several avenues for exploration for all of us. On behalf of Beacon House, I would like to thank you so much for sharing your profound thoughts and insights and telling us more about student agency and what student-led learning means. I'd also like to extend a very special thank you to our esteemed audience who have tuned in from all over the world for their interest and participation in this workshop. Last but not the least, I'd like to thank our lead sponsor, UBL. Without the support of our corporate sponsors, this conference would not have been possible. The SOT conference will continue till the 22nd of November, so stay tuned and do join other insightful sessions. Before you log out of this one, please take a minute to share your invaluable feedback about the session on our website, which will help us improve our future events and sessions. It will just take a click of a button on your screen. Thank you very much for your time. Until next time.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.